It's all about restoring a relationship with your Creator. We'll be discussing that today on Zola Levitt Presents.
Brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to God for Israel is that they might be saved. For there is no difference between the Jew and the Greek, for the same Lord over all is rich unto all that call upon him. Zola Levitt presents
Thank you for joining us today on Zola Levitt Presents. I'm David Hart.
I'm Kirsten Hart.
Jeffrey Seif.
I can't believe we're finishing up this series. It's been a fascinating series to us. What did you say about it?
Turn to Eden.
Yes.
I thought we were going to have our Indiana Jones caps and we were going to go hiking and find
Felt like
Eden.
we should, actually.
Yeah, a little bit of that, but it's more than that.
It's about relationship. Is that a good word for the series?
I think it's fair to say because a relationship got broken at the very beginning of the Bible, and God's in the fixer-upper business.
That's good.
Yes.
Right now, let's go to Dr. Seif's teaching in Jerusalem.
Great to look back, isn't it? When Yeshua made his entrance into Jerusalem, they were so excited. Jews came out en masse, welcomed him like a rock star, waving branches, saying, Baruch haba b'Shem Adonai. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. And you know, when he came to Jerusalem, he said as much that when he returns, the Jewish population would be so pleased to welcome him in the name of the Lord. Well, of course, there was a stony road that was walked, however, through history when Jews were exiled from this promised land. And then now, providentially, Jewish people made their way back. And you know, there comes a point in time when, and we're seeing it as I speak, when once again attention is galvanized on Jerusalem proper to see what God is doing in this land. 2,000 years ago, Jesus made his entrance onto the stage of the human drama. So spectacular was it when he entered through the gate here. And interestingly, there's an appointment with destiny again at a place called Jerusalem. I mention that because in the book Revelation, John in the 21st chapter sees Jerusalem once again making its entrance onto the stage of the drama. Of course, we're seeing that inching along now through time and circumstances in the modern world. But even this, a modern phenomena that is Israel, will be eclipsed. He says that this Jerusalem will come down out of heaven. And interestingly, in verse 22, John says that he saw no temple in her. And it isn't that God lost interest in the temple. The temple itself, as we've explored through this series, is a fabricated facsimile of Eden, where God made himself to dwell initially, but then problems entered, and now God makes his name to dwell therein in the Holy of Holies. And the temple itself, the tabernacle and then temple itself, is a replication of Eden. But with this new world to come, this new Jerusalem, as we're going to explore, it in effect, the city proper is the tabernacle. And we're told in verse 24, harking back to the words of the prophets, the nations shall walk by its light, and the kings of the earth bring their glory into it. Interestingly and fascinatingly, that we live at a point in time when Jerusalem is gaining significance and tension, as we have a capital move to Jerusalem with the United States, and it riles up the nations. Why do the nations rage? Here there'll come a point in time when the nations make peace. We're told in verse 26, they'll bring into it, that is, this new Jerusalem, the glory and honor of the nations. There's a new world dawning at the ragged edge of time. Jerusalem centers significantly in it, And we're told that the individuals are invited into it, those whose names are written in the book of life. My wife and I go out to eat on occasion, and the finer restaurants will ask us if we have a reservation. It's important to book it in advance. Similarly here, in this new world to come, the doors open to those who have made their reservations, those who have booked them in advance. Let me encourage you, if you haven't done that, to do that. There's a beautiful offer on the table. There's a new world coming, a world that wipes away depravity and sickness and all the rest. You can get a jump on that world. I don't know what kind of circumstances you find yourself in right now, but I know there's a great God who comes down out of heaven, who makes his spirit to abide within as he comes and makes his homes with us. May it be that you're of that ilk who have experienced that, and by virtue of your so doing, that you have your name written in the book of life. The paradise restored in Revelation employs language akin to Genesis, comes replete with beautiful flora and fauna and trees and rivers. It's a paradise. But there's something missing in this New Jerusalem paradise. And you know what's missing? The temple. Very, very interesting. John is very explicit. We'll see that in a moment. But if you will, please turn with me to Revelation 21, where he says in verse 2, I saw the holy city, the New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven. And there's a voice in verse 3 saying, behold, the dwelling of God is among men. Now that's significant. In church talk, people talk about the Shekinah glory, the Hebrew Shekhinah. It means the dwelling. Once upon a time in a land far away called Eden, God dwelt and walked with Adam and Cheva. Sin made its entrance onto the stage of the human drama, and there was a breach. The first couple were kicked out of Dodge. They went to the east and said, don't come back. That's what the boss said. But here now, paradise is restored and God dwells among them, we're told in the text. And in verse 4, he goes on to say, he'll wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more. As I've crossed into the 60s, I'm 62, and as I make my journey from the womb to the tomb, I realize that with age, people become beset with various circumstances. The body doesn't perform as we'd like. Isn't it good to know there's a place, there's a perfect hope for the saints, a place where there's no more tears. Later on we'll see he says that there's healing, that there's, but he goes on to say here in the immediate, mourning and crying cease. It's great, isn't it? In verses 9 and on, this New Jerusalem is described. In Revelation 21:22, he says, as I noted previously, I saw no temple in her. It's interesting, there's the New Jerusalem which comes down, and John notes there's no temple. Expositor has wrestled with that. What are the issues there? Certainly the Revelation was written subsequent to the destruction of the temple in Judea. Thus he's envisioning Jerusalem coming down without a temple. That could be it. But I think more to the point, he goes on to say the reason why there's no temple in this paradise restored is because the city itself is the temple. He says, I saw no temple in her, for its temple is Adonai Elohei Tzivaot, and the Lamb. Fascinating. The city has no need for sun or moon, and it harks back to the Genesis text where there's the created order before that. In verse 24, he says something that is strikingly important in my estimation, important for all of us. He says, the nations shall walk by its light. As we look at the language of paradise restored, what I want to accentuate is the nation's participation in it. Strikingly important, it seems to me, because With paradise being restored, the divine design is being restored. It's being recovered, it's being fulfilled. Recall how when the faith walk began with Avraham, Abraham, comes from the word father of the nations. He is a Hebrew from Ibru, a word meaning beyond the river. He crossed the Euphrates, he traveled along the Fertile Crescent and came to this land of promise. He in effect went back to the garden. And the promise was that in you, all the families of the earth will be blessed. Kol HaGoyim, all the nations, wasn't to be a Jew thing, it's to be a you thing. It's for the world at large. And what's fascinating is that that's noted specifically here in this final text, in this eschatological text. Eschatology speaks of last things in biblical literature. Protology speaks of first things, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. If you look at the bookend of biblical literature in Genesis, the divine design was for all people to cultivate a relationship with a present God. And that is noted as well, finally, in the restoration as we make our way through the biblical text and on to the 21st chapter of the book Revelation. The nations shall walk by its light. He says here, the nations shall walk by its light. The Mattean story begins with the nations, individuals coming to Jerusalem bearing gifts. And as it was in the beginning of the Newer Testament with offering gifts to the king, so it is people present to the Lamb as well. The kings of the earth come. May we not wait till then, may we all come now.
Our resource this week, the series Return to Eden on DVD. In this 10-program series, Dr. Jeffrey Seif uncovers how the Lord bridged the relationship gap caused by mankind's sin in the Garden of Eden by creating a special relationship with a people and a land that eventually led to the Messiah. Get this series for yourself or to share with friends. Just contact us and ask for the DVD series Return to Eden. If you're a longtime viewer of Zola Levitt Presents, then you're probably a longtime supporter. And I just want to say thank you, as you know how important your donations are to keep this ministry on the air. If you're a new viewer, I'd like to talk to you for just a moment. It's very important that you remember that the only way that we can stay on the air is through your donations of support. Please remember us monthly, and thank you.
You, our viewers, support this program, and you are literally taking this message of Israel and God's redemption for all of mankind around the world. So we thank you for your support. And if you're not a regular monthly supporter, we would ask if you'd consider that. Thank you so much for your gifts. Now let's go back to Jeff teaching in Israel.
I'm a city boy myself, and I didn't grow up having my hands in the soil, never mind with a byproduct of it. But, you know, so much of America was rural once upon a time, and people knew what it was to touch the earth's produce. I mention that because when we look in Revelation chapter 22, therein we see that there's water coming from God's throne, from his presence, and that it waters the earth, and life comes and produce is abundant, and with it health and healing. I want to read the text, not just talk about it, and with it show a great example how we'll begin at the end of the Bible, eschatology, and then we'll push to protology to the very beginning of it. We'll work with a prophet on the way, but if you look in 22:1, then the angel showed me a river of the water of life, bright as crystal, flowing from the throne of God and of the Lamb. It's interesting, we'll see in Ezekiel in a moment that the prophet saw with this rebuilt temple that there's going to be a water bust. I say that tongue in cheek, you know, it wasn't a plumbing problem that caused the water to flow. We'll look at that in a moment. We'll see how when the temple's rebuilt, he alights upon this water that comes forth and brings with it health and healing eastward down. And it's a fascinating story. Arguably, John the Revelator here is alighting upon that. Whereas Ezekiel saw and articulated specifically the temple would be built by God, here the temple, it's the throne of God and of the Lamb. Jesus' sacrifice is associated with. It's a beautiful story, and I want you to see how it's developed. If you will, go with me, please, to Ezekiel in chapter 47. Well, first, in chapter 43, he alighted upon going back to the temple and God's presence being there. And God being present in a locale harks back to an Edenic motif. Once upon a time, God was present with Adam and Cheva, but then his presence was withdrawn and they were pushed out. Now we're looking at restoration motifs. He says here that in 47, then he, that is the Lord, brought me back to the door of the house, and he notes, behold, water was flowing out from under the threshold of the house eastward, for the front of the house faced east. You might recall as well, Eden had its entrance and exit. It was all eastward. That's the way it was oriented. The way when they were disoriented, they were cast out eastward. The temple is built toward the east. That's where the entrance is. Well, here, interestingly, there's a water break, or so it seems, but not really. This water comes from the throne of God, and it starts off, the prophet says, in verse 3 as ankle deep, and then in verse 4, waist deep, and then in verse 5, it is a gushing river that he can't traverse. And he goes on to note how the waters go toward the eastern region and they go down to the Arabah and enter the sea. And if you've been to Israel, you know that you go eastward of Jerusalem and it drops off to the Judean wilderness and goes all the way to the lowest point on the earth, what's called the Dead Sea. What's noted in Ezekiel is the Dead Sea, it all comes to life, it's healed. And the real estate, which is very barren, it flowers. John the Revelator saw that in the age to come, that the world is brought back to life. He uses the imagery there of water flowing from the throne of God. We see in Ezekiel, centuries prior, he envisions the temple being rebuilt and water flowing from. Let me tell you how this relates to Eden. If you'll go with me, please, to Genesis chapter 2. There's a fascinating story. I'll open it from the Hebrew. He says, Vanachar yotze me'eden, and a river flowed from Eden. Lahashkot et Hagan, to water the garden. We're told, Umisham yipored v'hoyel le'arba'a rosham, and from there it divided. We're told in Genesis that Eden had a river, and this river was the source that life emanated from Eden. We see that, and it's worth noting as well, when they were kicked out of Eden, when the temple was built, the prophet sees there that there will be this water gushing eastward out of the temple complex, and we see the story much the same in Revelation. Again, it's an Edenic motif that begins in Genesis, flows through the whole of the Bible, and it ends in Revelation. Let me tell you, Revelation deals with things to come, but when it comes to that living water and being healed by it, you don't need to wait to Revelation chapter 21. Because Yeshua said that he who believes in me, and as the scripture has said, that out of them will come this living water.
Do you feel like you're in Bible class? We kind of feel like we are. And one of the questions we may have for you today is, why the name New Jerusalem?
Well, it's in the Bible, and what's interesting is when John puts pen to paper to write Revelation, the old Jerusalem was destroyed by the Romans. Right. People would have thought, well, I guess we're done with all that. Well, not too quick, because we're reviving Jerusalem still in the biblical economy.
Lots of preparation right now, I believe.
Today, yes, and it's interesting how God's preparing people's hearts. Many people, Christian people, thought God was just done with the Jew. We're all through, but we see an emergent interest and fascination as Israel emerges, as Jerusalem emerges in the modern world.
And many people feel that way.
Many people feel that way, and we're going to hear from one now. Dr. Robert Mawiri just came back from Israel, and he fares from the country of Zimbabwe.
The plan of God cannot be stopped, cannot be sabotaged. The will of God will be established. The Messiah of Israel will come back to Israel, and the Jewish people will say, "Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord." Do you know, I just come back from Israel, and the Jewish people are saying that. The Speaker of the Knesset was saying that. The President of Israel was saying that at the meeting. Because we come from the nations in the name of the Lord. And he was saying, "Blessed are you. We've come to Jerusalem in the name of the Lord." To literally fulfill the words of the scriptures. Because we're living in an amazing time, a time like no other time in history, when all the prophecies are going to be fulfilled in Jerusalem, at Temple Mount. We haven't seen nothing yet. The full battle for Jerusalem is coming, because this is the place where the Africans are coming back in the tens of thousands. The South Americans are coming in the tens of thousands. The Europeans are coming in the tens of thousands. The Asians are coming. At this meeting just 3 weeks ago, there were 70 nations represented, members of parliament, leaders of the world, all gathered together again in Jerusalem, because the future of Jerusalem has just begun. What we're seeing is the beginning. We will see a struggle for Jerusalem, and we will see the Lord triumph over the forces of darkness. And the Lord shall go forth from Jerusalem.
For many, a trip to the Holy Land is the dream of a lifetime. The Bible truly comes alive as you see the sites where so many biblical events happened, where the teaching is always from a messianic perspective. Come on a Zola tour in the spring to see Israel and Petra, or in the fall to add a cruise to Greece and Ephesus. See the land of the Bible for yourself. Contact us to reserve your dream of a lifetime.
We could not do this program without inviting you to join us on a Zola Levitt tour. We go to Greece, Israel, and Petra 2 times a year. We would love for you to join us. Right now, let's go to Israel with Sarah Lieberman as she teaches on the dates, which is one of the 7 species.
Shalom Chaverim! Welcome back to our series on the 7 species, the fruit of the land of Israel. And today, we're talking about dates. Now, the word for date in Hebrew is tamar. Dates are a superfood. They have a ton of health benefits. And in Bible times, they were used to make honey. And that's where we get the promise that God was going to bring them into a land flowing with milk and honey. Dates in Israel grow in the Jordan Valley. It's a special place where incredible dates grow. And the best species for you to try is a date called majhul. Now in the Bible, we have this incredible verse, an amazing promise in Psalm 92. It says that the righteous man will flourish like the date tree or like the palm tree. And that's because the palm trees are so tall and so beautiful. So this week, I pray that you will flourish like the palm tree. Tzadik katamar ifrach.
Take us there to the land of Zion. Next year in Jerusalem, the Shana Haba'ah Yerushalayim. Next year in Jerusalem. Oh, hear, O Israel, hear. O Lord, thy kingdom come, thy will be done next year. The Shana Haba'ah Yerushalayim. Next year in Jerusalem. Over there in the land of Zion. Next year in Jerusalem, the Shana Haba'ah Yerushalayim. Next year in Jerusalem. O Lord, draw near to us, O Lord, draw near. O Lord, thy kingdom come, thy will be done next year. The Shana Haba'ah Yerushalayim. Next year in Jerusalem. A land of rest, of thee I sing, a Zion blessed. Receive thy King, a promise promised land of thee, I tell, receive thy kingdom, Israel. When we're there in the land of Zion, next year in Jerusalem, Lishana Haba'ah Yerushalayim. Next year in Jerusalem, oh Lord, we'll be with you and no more tears. Oh Lord, thy kingdom come, thy will be done next year. Lishana Haba'ah Yerushalayim. Next year in Jerusalem, Lishana Haba'ah Yerushalayim. Next year in Jerusalem.
We are almost at the end of our brand new series, Return to Eden. And we just want to let you know that this series, all programs in this series are available on a DVD for purchase. And I am a Sunday school teacher, and this is a wonderful resource that you can pop in the DVD, play it for your classes, small groups, Sunday school. Every program, every series that we have is available. Go to levitt.com and look at the different series that we have, and it's a great resource for people.
It really is, and it helps us pay the bills.
It does.
Right. Can I say this about this series? We have felt your passion about every viewer or a family member having a personal relationship with Christ.
Yes, I certainly would. I don't want to just be some eccentric theologian.
Right.
It's all about joining people. We've all been kicked out of the garden. For me, early Genesis isn't about them, it's about me. And God has a plan to bring us all back together. And we all live in a desert in so many ways. We can use a little garden space in our life.
And I think you have a testimony of where you came from to where you are now teaching about this passion about Eden.
Who's to think? I never thought I'd be a teacher. I was such a bad student earlier on in life. So.
I wasn't a great one either.
Yeah, I heard you had problems in college. I had problems getting in.
I plead the fifth on all that. Yeah.
God is great. He has a plan for our lives.
And that's why this program exists. We're not here to do a show.
That's right.
This is a program bringing the gospel message, and we're bringing that to you today. It is possible to cross that bridge and have a restored relationship with our Creator.
Yes.
And that's why we're all here.
Yes.
Nothing else.
Thank you for your passion.
Oh, you're quite welcome. We love bringing the good news through the eyes of the Jews. Sha'alu Shalom Yerushalayim.
Pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
Our monthly newsletter, The Levitt Letter, is free and full of insightful articles and news commentary from a messianic perspective. Visit levitt.com to find our newsletter, along with current and past programs, our television schedule, and much more.
Don't forget to order this week's resource by calling 1-800-WONDERS, or you can purchase it from our store at levitt.com.
Your donations to Zola Levitt Ministries help these organizations bless Israel.
Thanks again for joining us this week. Zola Levitt Ministries and this television program depend on tax-deductible donations from viewers like you.
This has been a paid program brought to you by Zola Levitt Ministries.